So when you are on Google, there's a couple of ways that you can get to your Google Drive, which is where you need to be to create a Google form. So one way you can get there is by this little, I call it a little Rubik's Cube. If you click there, you can click on Drive. You can also go to drive.google.com. The last way is if you have your bookmark bar activated, you'll also see this little Rubik's Cube on there. And you can go, it'll do the little Rubik's Cube and it'll say apps. You can click on that and get to your Google Drive. Okay, once you are there, you're going to click on New. So when you click on New, you're looking for Google Forms. You're like, well, it's not there. I thought that's, where it would be. Well, you have to go to More. Once you go to More, that's where you'll find Google Forms, Google Drawings, and Google My Maps. And you can actually connect other apps. So we are going to concentrate on Google Forms today. Okay. So let's start creating our Google form and let's see all the ways that we can actually use it either at our schools, in our classrooms, or just for business in general. Like you see, you just went to my website and you logged in using a Google form. So there's many different ways you can use it and there's many different ways that you can actually share it. So I'm going to teach you all that today. Okay, first thing you want to do is name your form and name your file. When I mean name your form, this is what, and you see where my cursor is, this is what people are going to see when they go to your form. Up here, where you name your file, that's what your file is going to be named in your Google Drive. It can be different. So I'm just going to leave mine the same. So I'm going to put sample form. And you see all I had to do was click and the name repeated itself. Now if I wanted to change this I could, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it the same. Next you have a space that says form description. This is where you can put any information, any instructions, any directions, anything that you want to tell people about this form. So I may want to tell them that the purpose of the form. This form is to collect information from you. Now, of course, yours will be a little bit more detailed, but you do not have to put anything here, but if you do, it will show up on your form. If you leave this blank, for example, you just leave it like this little part that says form description will not show up on your form. So if you leave it blank, that's fine. Nothing will be in that area. But I'm going to go ahead and put something in that area. Okay, let's get started adding some questions to our form. So right here we have an untitled question. So we are going to click there. When you click, the option of what type of question comes up. And then you have your answer options. And I'm going to explain this whole little box to you. So let's go to the first one that is short answer. We just want to go in order. Okay, for a short answer question, that is for people to actually type in their answer, and it should be very short, like first name, last name, or just name itself, address, phone number, email. That's when you're going to use short answer. Paragraph is when you want them to type a longer answer. So how did you feel about the training today? You would make that a paragraph question. So let's start with short answer. The most common is name. So I'm going to put first name. Now, I've had people ask me, well, why sometimes do you put first name, last name, and then other times you just put name? It depends on how you want your results. When you get your results, it's different ways you can get your results, and I'll show you that. But when you get your results, you have a spreadsheet. So it depends on, do you want a column just for first name and a column just for last name? Or do you want the column to just be first name, last name in one box? So it really depends on how you want your results. So I'm going to do just first name. You see right here where it says short answer text. Again, you can put some directions. So I can put in here, oh no, I'm sorry, that's That's actually where they're going to put their answer. If you come right here to the three little dots, you can add a description. If you click that, this is where you can add some directions. Please put only first name. If I didn't want that, I can simply go back to the three little dots and uncheck it. So now I don't have a description, but I'm going to go ahead and put it back. Please only first name. Okay, and I made this a short answer. Now it's like, okay, well, what do? I have one question. How do I add another one? Well, there's a couple of ways for you to add a question. First off, if you come down here, it says duplicate. That means it's going to duplicate this question. You're going to get the exact same question right underneath it. So I'm going to click duplicate. Exact same question. And I'm going to change this to last name. So that way I don't have to type in the whole thing again. And down here, I'm going to put only last name. I'm going to keep it as a short answer. Now, another way that you can add a question is the little plus sign right here. When I add a question, a brand new question comes into place. Multiple choice is always the default. So we've done a short answer. Let's do a paragraph. How do you like this training? So now they would be able to type a paragraph. I can come here and add a description, but I'm not, but you can. And I can also duplicate. If I wanted to delete this question, I can come right here to the trash can and delete it. You see that when I deleted it, this little box popped up that said item deleted. Do you want to undo? So it only stays up for a couple of minutes. But if you do make a mistake, you can come here and undo it when that box pops up. I will tell you, if you look up here where it says all changes saved in Drive, anything that you do is automatically saved. So just like if I made that mistake, if I didn't click undo quick enough, I'm going to have to do it all over again. So I'm going to click plus sign. Look up here when I click that. You see how it says saving? It automatically saves. So how do you like this training? If I can spell today. Apparently I cannot. And I'm going to make this a paragraph. Okay, so we've learned just in about 5 minutes how to get different question types, how to add a question, and how to delete it. So next I want to go right here to where it says required. If you click that, that means that your participants, whoever is doing the survey, cannot move on until they answer this question. They can fill out the rest of the form, but when they try to submit it, it's not going to let them unless they answer this question. And you can see with every question, you can make it a required question. If I duplicate this question, that required, when it duplicates all the settings of that question. Okay, so I am going to delete this one, and let's add a brand new question. We are now on the multiple choice. With multiple choice, you see it says multiple choice check boxes and drop down. For multiple choice, that's the answer choices that participants can only pick one answer. For example, I'm going to ask, what color is the sky? I have my option 1. That's my first answer choice. I'm going to put red. When I want to add another answer choice, I just click add option. Blue, add option, yellow. And then if I want to just add an other field where they have to type it in, I can just click add other, and that's what it's going to do. If I come here and I'm like, oh, I put other, but I also want to put purple as an option. When I click add option, it's going to automatically move other to the bottom of the list. So it automatically moves other. Other is always going to be your last answer choice. If I also look back on here and go, you know what, I don't like yellow. I didn't really want to put yellow. I can come here and click the X and delete that option choice. that answer choice. Also, if I look and go, you know what, purple is my favorite color, and I want purple to be the first answer choice, these little lines right here, you see when I go over, you get the little cross sign. I can click it and drag it where I want it to go. So I'll put it as my first answer. If you notice the 6 little dots look very similar to these 6 little dots, that's because you can do the same thing with your questions. I can come here, click and drag it above any question that I already have in the form. So it's really up to you. You can't really make a mistake by missing a question. You can always drag it to where you want it to be. Okay. Let's add another question. Now, you see what I just did? I added a question and I wanted it to be at the bottom. Why did it go above this question? Because that is where my mouse was. So, for example, if I click right here and I click add question, it's going to go right underneath wherever my mouse is. But what can I do? I can just simply drag it down if I want to. Okay. So let's look at another type of question. Check boxes. Okay, well look at this. This looks very similar to this. So what's the point of having 2 different kinds? Well, with multiple choice, you can only pick one, or the people that are doing your survey or whatever you're putting out there can only pick one answer. With a checkbox, they can choose multiple answers. So I'm going to say, what is your top 2 favorite colors? Apparently I'm stuck on colors today. So for option 1, I can put red. I can add an option and put yellow. I cannot spell today. I can add an option and put blue. I can add an option and put purple. And then I can say add other. So now with the check boxes, they can actually choose multiple answers. With multiple choice, they only choose one. Let's look at another type of question. Drop down. For drop down, you would use this if you have a whole bunch of answers and you don't want your form to be really long. So under drop down, I can put, what is your favorite color? And then when I add my options, it's going to be in a drop down box. And we are going to take a look at this and preview our form after this. And I'll just put other. Oh, there is no other because it's drop down. Okay, so red, yellow, okay, that's enough. All right, so when I want to preview, you know, I've done a lot of questions. I want to kind of see how this form is going to look to other people. I can come up here and click on the preview eye. It looks like a little eye. It looks like a little CBS eye. So I'm going to click on that, and now it shows me this is how my form is going to look. If it has an asterisk by it, it's because I put it as required. You see my little directions. You see my multiple choice, I can only pick one. It changes. And with my check boxes, I can choose all of them. Now here's my drop down for that same question. Now you see that it's a drop down menu. So just in case you don't want it to take up all this space on your form, you can make it a drop down and I can answer it that way. Okay, if I want to go back to editing, I can either choose the pencil or I can just go back to the tab. Okay, let's add a different type of question. Linear scale. What a linear scale does is it gives you a scale from 1 to 10. You can choose it from 1 to 10. I'm just going to leave it at 1 through 5. I can just click 10 so you can see how that will look. And you tell it what does 1 mean and what does 5 mean. For example, I'm going to put that 1 is boring and up to 5 is awesome. And I'm going to ask, how did you like this training? Let's go to the preview and see how that looks. Awesome. How did you like this training? Boring? 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, I'm going to put awesome and submit it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the tab. So I can go ahead and do the another question. Okay, so I have the plus sign. I'm going to skip multiple grid just for a second and go to date and time. For a date question, you can ask, when do you want to meet? When you do that, they can put in the month, date, and year, and they can click on this little calendar, and it'll bring up a calendar that they can choose from. You can also add a time, and they can do the same thing. What time do you want to meet? You don't have to put a question about when are you turning this in, because when someone comes and participates in your form, your survey, your quiz, whatever it is, Google Forms automatically time, dates, and stamps it. It stamps the time and the date. So you don't really have to ask, what is today's date that you're turning it in? You really don't have to do that, because once they submit their answer, it's automatically going to show you the time and the date. And we'll have an example of that at the end. Okay, so let's see how this looks. I always like to see how people are going to do it. So, okay, what time do you want to meet? If they click here, they can either type in or they can go and find the date. And right here, they can put AM, PM, and they can actually type in the time. For example, 3:50 p.m., and then they can go ahead and submit that question. Okay, so that's the date and the time. If you come up here, remember the 3 little dots that you always have. The 3 little dots that you always have, it gives you more options. For when you put in a date, you can actually include the time in that question. So you don't even have to put it as a separate question if you want the date and the time to be together. You can also add your description line, like you can always add your little directions to it. If you don't want that, you simply go back and uncheck it. If you want the time to be different. Why would you want the time to be different? Again, it depends on your results. When you get that it's almost like an Excel spreadsheet. When you get that, if you want the time in a different spot, then you're going to want to put it as a different question. So it really just depends on how you want the responses, how you want your results to come out. Okay, so we have all of this. Now let's look at the grid. The grid is a little funny, but I'm going to explain it. Okay, so we are going to do a grid. Now, for your question for the grid, the thing that you have to remember is that your answer choices have to be the same. And it may sound a little weird, like, what do you mean by that? Well, let's do a sample question. That's the best way to see how to do it. And the grid even confuses me sometimes. I have to sit and think about it. Okay, so if your question is, what is your favorite, I cannot spell today, food? Across the rows, and you know your rows are across and your columns are horizontal. So I'm going to put Let's see. For each column, I'm going to put chocolate. I'm going to put strawberry. And vanilla. Those are my answer choices. So for this, I'm going to put cake. What else can be strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate? Candy. Of course, what everybody thought of in the beginning was ice cream. Okay, and you just keep going like this. You can tell it that you want to require one response per row. That means they have to choose one answer per row or they cannot continue. So it's up to you if you want to require that. So let's look at my form. So, what's your favorite food? Candy, cake, ice cream, and then I would choose chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry for each one. You can put chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry on your rows and then put cake, candy, and ice cream on your columns. It's really up to you. As long as you know that one of these has to have the exact same answers. Chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Something has to be stagnant. You have to have an answer. This is going to be the same answer for all of them. The question really doesn't make sense. I should change the question. But as long as you understand how the grid works, you should be okay. All right. Oh, the little things are getting in my way. Okay. So we have actually looked at each and every question type. It didn't even take long to do that. Okay, so now we want to look at some more things that we can add. We've only actually touched this one little plus sign. We have a bunch to go. And we also want to look at making it pretty and how to send it and how to get our responses. Okay, so we have our form. Let's go ahead and use the title and description. What a title and description does is it makes a break in your page. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and put a title and description right here. So I'm going to click this and put title and description. It always goes underneath where your mouse is. Okay, so I'm going to put my title as let's say program description. Program details, because we asked what time you want to meet and what date. So we're going to put program details, and if I wanted to do a little description, but I'm not going to. So I want to see how this looks. Ah, look at that. It makes a cute little page break. So now I have a title for program details. When I scroll up, I'm doing my little quiz, doing my little survey, and then I know, oh, okay, now I'm getting to the program details. So you can kind of break up a long Google form with your titles. Sorry, this thing at the top is getting in the way. Okay. All right, so we have our program details. That's when you can add a title and you can add a description, which your description is always like a directions, so you can add that. Let's go back to the bottom and add an image. When you click adding image, you can either upload your own image, you can take it from your Google Drive, your albums, if you have a URL of an image that you want to do, or you can just do a Google search. So I'm going to search for cat. And I'm just going to take the first one. I'm going to click. I could double click or just click and hit select. So now I have an image of a cat. I can click on the cat and this little window comes around it. This is for me to make him smaller or bigger. I'm going to make him smaller just because this is a sample. And I'm going to tell it to justify a line in the center. I can put a title on him. Cat. I can duplicate them, delete them, the same little things that we've talked about before. When you see hover text, that means that that text is going to come up when somebody hovers their mouse over the picture. A mouse and a cat, which is kind of funny. Okay, so I'm going to put a hover text that says cat. So when we're going to preview it, if I hover over it, that's going to come up. Okay, I can change the picture, but I'm going to leave him alone. So I had someone ask me one time, well, why in the world would you put a picture in a Google form? Well, if you're doing a quiz or anything like that, you may want to ask a question about the cat. So then they said, well, how do I ask a question about him? There's no place to ask a question. Well, you add a question. I'm going to add a short answer question. What pictorial elements are in this picture? You can tell that I am not an art person. Okay, so I asked a question about the cat and then they can answer it. And I'm not going to make it required, but you could. Okay, so let's preview and see how that looks. So I have my title that I just showed you, and I have my cat, and then when I hover over it, look what comes up, cat. And then I have my question. So you can see how seamless this looks when you add your question. It looks just like you're asking this question about the cat. On the form itself, it kind of looks like it's going to have a line, but it doesn't. It looks seamless. So yay, now I can do a quiz with pictures, or a survey, or anything else you're doing. Next, I want to add a video. Of course, we're dealing with Google, and Google is YouTube. Or you can get a video from somewhere else. It still says YouTube, and paste it right there. But I'm just going to do a search. Okay, I don't know. I'm just going to do my YouTube trailer. I can double click. I can also tell it to be singer aligned or singer justified. I can put a title to it. I'm not going to put a title to it so you can see that if you don't type in a field, it will not show up. So I want you to see that. I can put a caption to the video if I wanted to. Again, I'm not going to do that. And let's see how that looks. Okay. Now I have a nice little, I'm going to pause it before it gets too loud. Okay, so now I have a video in my form, and just like I did with the cat, I can just add a question. So I'm just going to duplicate this question and drag it down and change picture to video, and there we go. Now I can't see, unfortunately, I can't see if you guys are asking any questions. I'm thinking my host can see that. So if you are asking any questions, I will definitely answer everything when I stop sharing my screen. Okay, so that's how you can add a video and ask questions about a video. The last thing is to add a section. What that means, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. What that means, and when you add a section, is that your Google form will be cut off and it's going to add a page. It says add section, but it's really adding a page. So I'm going to come right here and click add section. Remember, it's always going to be underneath. So if you want something underneath, you click and then it comes underneath. Okay, so I'm adding a section. Let's see how that looks. So this is my form. You see my little title that we added. Where's my cat? Where's my video? Well, when we added a section, now it adds a page. So I can't click next because remember I have this required. So if I click next, it's going to say, no, you have to answer this. So once I answer it and click next, now I have my next section. And then I can submit. So if you ever wondered, well, I've done forms before, but I don't know how people always have different sections to their form or different pages to their form, this is how. Okay, so we have, and you see untitled section, you can title your section. I'm going to put this is the media section. And so that's what will show up. Okay. So it's only 10:32 and we've gone through a lot, which is awesome. So we're going to have a good time for questions. So we've went through every question type. We've went through all the twos down here. Now let's make it pretty. We dealt with the eye, which is preview, a whole bunch. But now let's make it pretty. So when we come to color palette, is how you can change the color. When you change the color, as for now, is this may change, but when you change the color, it changes this, it changes the question, it changes your titles, it makes it complementary. So if I pick green, it's going to change it. And sometimes it changes the form itself and it makes it a different color. So it just depends. Down here where you see, I call it like a little mountain, you can click that and you can actually choose some of the themes. You have a whole bunch of themes that you can choose from. And you can go to different, if I was having a party, I want to do invitation to my party. If I was having a sports, look at that, awesome, something dealing with sports. So I'm going to go ahead and click him since I know it's the NBA Finals. I know nothing about it. I'm not going to try to pretend, but I know it's on. So I'm going to click select. Okay, and I have him up here. Now, it's not going to be the moving one. I don't know why it never is, but there it is. Okay, now you see, you may look and go, well, it's kind of short. I wish it was a little bit longer. And you notice when I changed the theme, it changed the color around here too. So if I go to preview, let's see how that looks. It's a little bit taller. So you don't really have to go back here. You see how it's short and it's kind of cutting off the ball. But if you look at this, it's not. So when people actually get it, it's not going to look like that. So let's change it one more time so you can see how the side colors change when you choose a theme. Now you see that my side changed. You see that this changed to brown. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that. Also, when you go there, you can upload a photo. So if you have a brand or you have a company or just your school and you want to put your school mascot or something like that up there, you can upload a photo or you can go to your albums and get a photo. So you can create your own theme for Google Forms. We'll leave the jelly beans up there. Okay, let's preview our form. We have our jelly beans. Okay, we have our required question. We have our multiple choice. We have everything that we did. We have our title. We have our section, which is going to tell me I have to answer. And we have our picture and our video. We've done a lot. Okie dokie. So we've done the color palette to make it pretty. We've seen the preview. Now let's play with our settings. When you go to settings, sometimes you'll have this question and sometimes you will not. It depends on how you're signed into Google Drive. If you're signed in using your school district, this would be really, really important. If you're signed in using your personal Google Drive, you probably won't see this. So it's going to ask you who can answer this form. It depends on, like I said, if you're in a school district, for example, this is going to be very important because you may want to put anyone instead of anyone in so-and-so school district. If you keep it as anyone in so-and-so school district, if that person does not sign in using their school district Google Drive, they will not be able to do your form. So that's very important. I sent one out to my district one time and I started getting emails saying, hey, I can't do the form. I can't do the form. And I was wondering why. I was wondering what happened. And what it was is that they weren't signing in using the district. They were just using their regular Gmails. So sometimes it's good to put anyone. So that just means anybody that you send it to, they'll actually be able to use it. Right here, they can submit only one response. The problem with this is that it makes them log into Google Drive. So if you want just anybody in the world to do your form, you don't want them to log in, you want them to just be able to do it, you don't want to click this. If you're doing a quiz or something like that with your students and you want to make sure that they can only answer one time, then you may want to do this and make them sign in so they can only respond one time to the quiz. So it's really up to you. For the confirmation page, this means after they have done your form, what do you want it to say? This is going to be the generic one. Your response has been recorded. You may want to change it to whatever you want to. So I'm going to put, yay, you rock. Thank you so much. And that's what they're going to see when they turn in the form. Okay. You can also let them submit another response. That means once they submit it, there's going to be a button or a link that says, hey, do you want to submit another response? If you want them to do that, click here. If you want them to be able to edit their response, click here. Sometimes this is good. If you're getting information like you're asking people for their phone number, their addresses, things like that, once they submit, if you want them to be able to go back in and go, oh no, I forgot to put my area code, and they could just click edit my response and go back in and do it. If not, then they would have to do a whole new form. So it's really up to you. Sometimes, of course, you don't want them to edit their response. So it's up to you if you want that. I'm going to click it so you can see the different buttons. Then you have see a summary of responses. Anytime you have a little question mark, you can hover over so you can get the hover over text. Do you want them to see a summary of the responses? Again, sometimes this is good, sometimes it's not. If you're doing a survey where you're asking, what date do we want to meet? You may want your participants to see a summary of the responses so they can see, oh no, 10 people put Monday and I put Tuesday. So you may want them to see a summary of the responses. If you're doing a quiz or something like that, then of course you don't want them to see a summary of responses. So it's really up to you. I'm just clicking everything so you can actually see it. Okay, presentation options. The first one, show progress bar. If you have a form that has multiple sections, which means it has multiple pages, I suggest that you do show a progress bar. What that is I know we've done, most of us, even if we haven't created a Google form, we've done Google Forms. So when you have that little bar at the bottom that tells you, hey, you're 20% done, you're 30% done, you're 50% done. That's what the progress bar does. And I'm really good with filling out forms and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to tell you, once I see a form that has multiple pages and it doesn't tell me the progress, I'm probably not going to do that form right away. Why? Because I don't know how long the form is going to take. So if you have different pages, you may want to do, I suggest that you do a progress bar. Because as soon as that first page comes up, I'm going to know, oh, well, it's only 2 pages because it says I'm 50%. So it really does help. So I'm going to put it on there. The next one is to shuffle question order. I never use this because I don't use it for quizzes and things like that. But if you do, this may be very, very helpful, especially if your students are sitting right on the side of each other. You want to shuffle the question order. So, if I know no student is going to cheat. But if, the eyes wander a little bit, my number one is not going to be the same as your number one. So you may want to shuffle. Once you pick your settings, you can go ahead and click Save. And it will be saved for you. You see up here again, it automatically saves. Okay, so I've done my settings. I'm going to go to my 3 little bars and click More. Now, I don't go through all of this, but I'm just going to show it to you. One is to make a copy of your entire form. Why would you want to do that? Well, if I made this form and then I wanted to do pretty much a very similar form but for another group, I can just make a copy of the form and then just change whatever I want to change. You can also move the form to the trash. You can get a pre-filled link. Let me explain what that is. A pre-filled link, it says answer questions you want to pre-fill, then hit submit. What this is is if you want to pre-fill in some of the answers before you send it to one certain person, you can do that. For example, and I used to ask, why in the world would anybody want to do this? And then my teachers that teach little people would tell me, well, maybe I want to pre-fill in the first and last name for them so they don't have to do it. And I was like, well, that's kind of smart. So if I wanted to fill in my first and last name and then send it with a pre-filled link, then it's going to give me a link. This is the link that I can send to Desiree Alexander so she can do her form. And her form is already going to have Desiree Alexander in it. So it's just an option. All right. You can also print. You can add collaborators. What that means is if I want you to help me actually create this form, I can do that. So I can add you as a collaborator and tell you, hey, I need you to come and I need you to look at my questions and I need you to to help out with my questions. Okay. Okay, so for the script editor, you really are not going to play with that unless you're doing something with script. And then you have your add-ons, which we're not going to go through. That's a whole different class, but it's different add-ons that you can use to help out with your form. The one that you probably hear a lot about is Flubaroo. And again, we're not going to go through that today, but with Flubaroo, what you can do is tell Google or tell your form what answers are correct. So that way, when your students fill out, if you're using it for a quiz and your students fill out everything, it will automatically grade it for you. So that's one of the add-ons. Okay, so you created this awesome, awesome, awesome form. How do I send it out? How do I get it to people? Well, you want to go to send. When you go to send, you have 3 different options to send it out. Okay, one is by email, one is by using a link, and one is by using Embed. For the email one, you can actually put in the email addresses. And however many email addresses you have, you can copy and paste them in. You can put in a subject for your email and a message. Now, this little checkbox is really crucial and really important. I would not check this unless I had a very, very small form. So if you have a small form, which means maybe, first name, last name, and 1 question, or first name, last name, and 2 questions, you can actually include the form in the email, which means when they get the email and the email pops up, your form is actually there. They don't have to click a link to go to it. And they can answer it right from their email and hit submit. I've seen this, I've gotten these before, and it was really, really helpful because I could just answer it and move on with my day. I didn't have to go to another link. I didn't have to do anything like that. Now, of course, you don't want to do this if you have a super long form or if you have videos and pictures in your form because different emails are going to respond to that in different ways. So you only want to do it if you have a very, very simple, very short form. But you can include the form in the email. Next, we already talked about add collaborators, and you would just send. Next, or you can send it, using Google Plus, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, next is you using it by sending a link. This is the one we use most often. And what you can do is you can just click on the link and copy it, or you can right-click on it and copy it, and go ahead and paste it in an email or paste it whatever you want to paste it and send it off. You can also shorten the URL by just clicking here. And if you do that, it shortens the URL. And then again, you just copy it or copy it here. What I always do is when I copy a link, I always go to a different window and I test it just to make sure that everybody will be able to see it. So I'm like, okay, yep, it looks good. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and send it on. I will tell you that remember when we talked about in the settings about anybody who can respond? If you test the link and it looks good to you, but you don't have anyone, that means because you're already logged in. So if you don't have anyone, that doesn't mean that everybody will be able to see it. So just because you copied and pasted and you tested it out, if you don't have this anyone, it doesn't mean that everybody will be able to see it that you send it to. So that's why that setting is so important. The last way that you can share your form is what I did. You saw that you went to my website and you filled out the form. That's because I embedded it into my website. Now, I'm not going to go into HTML. I'm not going to go into embedding because that's a website class and that's a different class. But you can embed the HTML. You would copy this code or copy it right here, and you can put it into a website or embed it into whatever you're using. Usually it's a website. And you can also change the width and the height, but you can do that after you embed it as well. So it's up to you. Okay, so a couple of ways that you can actually send your form so people can answer it. Okay, so with Google Forms, we have that. If I go back to my Google Drive, here's my form. And you remember I named it sample form. So now we need to see, how do I get the responses? And we're moving pretty quickly. I usually take questions, and so we'll do that at the end since I can't really see you guys. So let's see, how do I get my responses? So right now I just have my form. If I click right here where it says responses, this is how I get my responses. So let's go ahead and fill out the form. I'm not going to fill it out with all the correct information because that would take too long. But how do I like this training is awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to click on some stuff so you can see how the responses will look. Okay. Okay, so look at how my answers come up. Yay, you rock. Thank you so much. And that's what I have. That's what I put. And then now I have these 3 links that I talked about in the settings. I have see previous responses. I'm sorry, previous responses, edit my response, and submit another response. So if I click here and submit another response, I get another form. Hopefully you'll let me go back to see the, oh, no, okay. Well, that's the, let me just do this so you can see that screen again. Okay, you have edit your response, so I can go back, and this is the only response that I put, so I can actually edit it again. And you have see previous responses. So these are all the people that have responded. So you see why it may be good if you're doing a survey, but it may be bad if you're doing a quiz. Because if I see, oh, everybody answered this one, so that's what I'm going to put. But these are the responses, the previous responses of people that have filled out the form. Okay, so now what we want to do is to see our responses on our side. So if we go to responses, it's giving you a little tutorial. Right now I'm on summary. So this gives me a summary of everybody. It gives me nice little charts and graphs. This is not the way to view your responses if you're looking for, what did Desiree Alexander say? What did Marvin Smith say? This is not the way to do it if you're looking for that. But if you're just looking for, hey, I want to see what everybody's favorite food was, then this is awesome. You'll have a nice little chart for it. You can go to individual responses and you can see what each person actually responded. So this is what Desiree Alexander said. This is her response. You can equate this to a paper response. So it looks like just like if they would have handed you the quiz or handed you the survey as a paper, this is that view. This is what they said, that one person said. And if I go to the second one, this is what the second person said. Remember, I just did this one. Okay, so it gives you the individual responses and you can actually print them out individually. Okay, you can also delete responses. Why would you ever delete responses? Well, if I wanted to use this same quiz again and I don't care about the responses that I've already gotten, I've already recorded them, I've already printed them out, whatever, you can go ahead and delete responses. Right here where it says accepting responses, you leave this turned on until you don't want to accept them anymore. So for example, if you have a survey and you said to do it by, May 2nd and now it's May 3rd, I can click this and now it's not going to accept the responses. And this is what it's going to say when people go to that link. This form is no longer accepting responses, or I can say, too bad, you are too late. I wouldn't say that for real, but you get the point. Okay, and if you want to start accepting responses again, you simply click it. You have some options. You always have different kinds of settings. You can get an email notification for every time somebody turns in a response. You can click where you want your responses to, you can choose, where you want your responses to go. You can print all the responses. You can download them as a SCB, or you can delete all responses, which I have done in the past. Now, you're probably sitting there going, well, you know what? I've used Google Forms before, and I know I always got a spreadsheet. Or you may be saying, well, somebody said you can get a spreadsheet. But you can still get a spreadsheet. All you have to do is come right here to create spreadsheet. You click it. It asks you, what do you want your spreadsheet to be called? That's going to be in your Google Drive. So in your Google Drive, what do you want it to be called? I usually leave it as the title of my form with responses. I usually just leave it like that. Or you can select a spreadsheet that you may already have in your Google Drive to add the responses to, which is really cool. So if you had a quiz or a test or even a survey and you wanted the responses to be added to your other survey spreadsheet, you can do that. I'm just going to create a new one because I don't have anything. I'm going to click create. Yay! Now I have my spreadsheet. So this is, I spelled my name wrong. I really cannot spell today. So this is an awesome way for you to tell, okay, well, what exactly did Desiree Alexander say? It's also a great way to get that information that you need to get from your parents, from your students. What's your phone number, all that demographic information. And when you get it, it's automatically on a spreadsheet. You don't have to take that big pile of forms and type it all in anymore. It's already here. So that's the awesome thing. So I have my my responses, and you can also share just the responses with other people. So if you wanted, you didn't want them to actually have access to your form. You didn't want them to change your questions and things like that. But you did want them to get the results, so you wouldn't have to download and email it to everybody or share it. Or create a new form and share it. You can just share it straight from here. Just click share and you can put in the people's names or share it any way that you share anything else with Google Drive. So now if I go back to my drive, I have my sample form and I have my responses. And I know this is not a Google Drive class. I'm trying not to teach Google Drive, but you can also change your view. So if you wanted it as a list view or as a grid view. Okay, I'm going to go away because then I'll start teaching you Google Drive. Okay, so that's how you get your responses using your Google Forms. You can always go back to your questions. You can always modify it. Nothing is ever permanent in Google Forms except for your responses. And of course, you can still delete them. And if you have that spreadsheet, you can actually modify them. So if somebody calls you and says, hey, I did the form, but I put my name, I misspelled my name, you can just go in and change it. And then your form is correct. So that's the great thing, that you can pretty much edit anything. So that is how you do Google Forms. I wanted to make sure we had enough time for our sign-in, make sure we had enough time for the evaluation, and for all the questions that you may have. So that's why we put it at 2 hours. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see the chat box, and we can ask any questions, and I'll just pop up and share it again so I can answer any questions. Okay, from Sue Rodriguez, it says, I can see where Google Forms is good for test practice with selecting one answer in multiple choice and more than one for checkboxes, but can the question and answer choices be read and audio feature to the youngest and most special learner? Can the pics be inserted into multiple choice instead of type text for you? Absolutely. Okay, now I guess a couple of questions. I want to make sure I answer all of them. Can the question and answer choices be read? That is depending on what add-ons you have, and I can show you that. Can pics be inserted into multiple choice and say yes? Okay, so let me share my screen. Good question. Yay! Okay, I love this, guys. Okay, so yes, you can. I'm gonna go to where we have the cat picture. I can click that, and you see it's just the cat. And then since you're adding the question after the picture, you can put it however you want to. So what pictorial elements? I'm going to say color, and y'all please don't laugh at me. I don't know. Art, shape, I don't know. Contrast. Okay, so because the picture and the question itself are two separate things, you can make this question whatever type of question you want to make it. And if I'm not answering the actual question you're asking, please, please, please let me know, because I do want to answer it. Okay, so this little box at the top. Okay, so if you well, let me just do a preview. I thought I had one up. Okay, so it depends on what, since this is a Google form, it depends on what add-ons you have with Google on if it can be read. Just the regular, hey, I'm a Google form, no, it cannot be read. But if you have, for example, if you have Read Write, and I'm not trying to tell you what add-ons to get, but if you have, Read and Write for Google Chrome, then it may be able to be read to you. Okay, I don't. Okay, well, let me stop it. Let me stop it. Like I don't know if you heard that, but again, that's an add-on. So it really depends on what add-ons you have. If it's just like a normal, hey, I'm a Google form, no, it will not be read. But Google's so awesome. You can just do a quick little add-on and you can have it read to you. Like I don't know if you heard that, but it was reading to me. Okay, I created a form in the old version of Google Forms. Is there a way to import it into the new version? Yes, 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 there is. Let me start sharing my screen again. Okay, so if you look, and I think that was Paula, if I'm not mistaken, that asked that question. When they moved it to the new version of Google Forms, they had a little running, we call them a little running man right here, where you can go back and forth between the old version and the new version of Google Chrome. I'm sorry, Google Forms, and they have discontinued that. So you see the little running man is not there. However, if you are in the old version of Google Forms, when you open up your form, you should see a bar. We kind of miss, I know I used to miss it all the time. There's a bar right at the top that says, it'll say something like, try the new Google Forms. If you click that, it will make your old Google form the new Google form. The only thing is now you cannot go back, because we used to be able to go back and see the difference between the two. So you can no longer go back. But when you open up your old form, it should be, I think it's a purple bar if I'm not mistaken, and it'll say something like, try the new Google form, or see this in the new Google Forms. And you should be able to click that to get to the new Google form. Okay, let's move on. Can a form that I created be translated into other languages? Again, if you're just looking at just plain old Google form, no, but it depends on what add-on. So if you have an add-on that translates, yes, it can. So it depends on your add-ons. I think the question is asking if the answers can be quite. Oh, okay. I can't spell either. I know something's wrong with me today. I'm doing too much at the same time. Um,
But no, I don't see a way. Let me share my screen again. I have not seen that be added on to where, but let's I don't even know what question type that would be. No, it's not an option. I was gonna try to play around with it, but it's not an option right now for the an answer to be a picture. So no, it's not an option at this point. They do update constantly. On my website, I do have a link to a handout about Google Forms that may help. So any materials I go over is on my website, and this is my Gmail account at the bottom of the screen.